Alright, this walkthrough guide covers the first mission of the Steiner
Check.
campaign in
1,
MechCommander
2,
2.
check. This is Tactical Officer Diaz. Alright, sir, we're online. Fedcom software is pretty reliable, but
It's
we
the
need
first
to run
level in
some
the game,
system
and
tests
you're
to
going
make
to
sure
begin
we're
out
fully operational.
immediately
At the
with
beginning of each
preset
mission, you should review our objectives.
squad
You can
here.
access them at any time.
You can't really choose what mechs you use for the first mission.
Welcome to Carver 5,
And I'm
Commander.
be playing
I'm
all
Colonel
the
Renard. While under contract
walkthroughs
with
for
House
this
Steiner,
game
you will
on
be
the
taking your
elite
orders from
difficulty.
me.
The reason for this being that regular is just way too easy, and the veteran difficulty is insane. Or, sorry, the hardest difficulty is insane. This is on veteran, I believe, which is the third highest difficulty. Yeah, but anyways, on the hardest difficulty, it becomes almost impossible to avoid lucky shots that small units can just take out your mechs immediately. Anyways, this mission starts off, just run to that hangar, destroy it. Once it's destroyed, those soldiers pop out of the woods, which you can run over. And move up, charge up to the LRM carriers and close distance with them quickly. That way, because they have a minimum range where if you get too close to the LRM carriers, they can't fire on you again. But yeah, back to what I was mentioning earlier. This difficulty I find to be the best because it actually makes it a challenge where you have to care about how you go about fighting.
Objective complete.
Whereas the regular difficulty
Nice
is
work,
just way
Commander.
too easy.
We should prepare our units before engaging more enemies.
As
Check the
your
support tab and call in a repair truck.
intelligence
Remember that
officer
support is limited by our resource points,
suggests
or
now,
RPs, so don't waste
bring
them.
down a repair vehicle because you'll likely need to heal some damage you've taken. And you're about to be facing 2 urban mechs, which is why that's important. One tactic you'll see that I do often is always keep my mechs in top repair. For 2 reasons. One, because even if your mech doesn't get destroyed, it can get weapons blown off, which sucks. And anytime you lose a weapon on a mech, you can't get it back until the end of the mission. So that's like a big hamper.
Sir, we've got more
And another
weapons on
thing
the
too
other
is
side
that
of
the
this
life
forest.
bars
Even though our
on
line of
mechs
sight is
don't
blocked,
actually
we can still
represent
detect
the
one using the sensors
actual
on the
amount of
laser
hit
map.
points left before your pilot has to eject. Life bars are more an overall representation of their abilities on the battlefield. For example, if you lose a weapon, you'll lose a large chunk of the life bar. And actually, a mech that has full armor but no weapons will look as though it's about to die, whereas in reality, it's quite far from it. Anyways, as you can see, I pulled the 2 urban mechs onto the side of the woods. And as you can also see, one tactic that's very important when you're fighting on the harder difficulties is to know how to kite effectively. Kiting and flanking are big strategies to use. I had both of the urban mechs target this one bushwhacker and then flank them with my other 2 mechs moving behind. As you can see, he's starting to take some damage, so I can actually repair him while he's still being shot at. And remember, you always do more damage from behind. You also do more damage if you're on higher ground. You get more headshots. That's really good. And that's big on this difficulty. over on this side of the woods, 2 harassers to deal with, which you can just engage at regular range and avoid being shot by.
Objective complete.
Always know
Here's a good
your target
opportunity to salvage an enemy mech.
enemy's distance
Select
or
the
ranges
salvage
that they
craft
fight
from
at.
our support tab and target a
In other
disabled
words,
urban mech.
those
One of our
harassers
mech
are
warriors will
short
fly in
range,
and
which
take
means
control.
that it's best to engage them from a distance, whereas certain things like Jaeger mech has a very long range, or anything that has LRMs will have a long range, but they also have
Detected.
minimum ranges where you can get too close to them and their weapons become ineffective. This is important because it's these, you need to know whether you need to close distance or run away from a target when it's shooting at you in order to kite effectively and be able to flank it at the same time. As you can see, I'm also setting my mechs into control groups.
These guys are pretty
Usually I
well
only
equipped for
use 2
bandits.
separate control groups. You really, for most of this game, won't need to split your forces into more than 2 significant groups at any given point in time. Although if you do, at that point it becomes different. Alright, what we've done here, this final engagement part, I sent my bushwhackers over the water until we heard the mech power-up sound, or notification. That's because there's a bunch of vehicles, a number of LRM carriers, these 2 harassers that you saw, or maybe they were centipedes, and this one Star Slayer. And the Star Slayer is the pain in the ass. And we want to engage him separate from those LRM carriers. So once we crossed the river, we headed right back, or the water, we headed right back. That way the Star Slayer and those 2 smaller vehicles got drawn out, while the LRM carriers would stay behind, which allows us to engage them later. As you can see here, I'm kiting with my bushwhacker, keeping the back of the Star Slayer turned to my other 2 mechs. They follow him around. As you can see, my old bushwhacker, as I was mentioning earlier, when you lose weapons, you take a big chunk of life out of your bar. Even though his armor is actually damaged too, it's not damaged as bad as his life bar would suggest. But he did have probably his autocannon or PPC blown off, which is why it now seems to be almost dead. Use your resource points, and if the Star Slayer is still somewhat functional and hasn't exploded, you can salvage it, and then use a second repair truck to repair both the damage done in that last fight and the Star Slayer itself. So now we have 4 mechs. And Star Slayers are one of the more effective designs that you'll see that I use fairly often throughout the game. The Bushwhacker is another one that I like. Definitely I try to take those whenever possible. And of course you always need a sensor mech. When choosing perks for your pilots later on, it's a good idea to have take things like medium mech specialty, light mech specialist, especially like I believe Flash. I'll later be giving her light mech specialist so she can avoid damage in her Razorback. So yeah, pretty much all we gotta do is just clear out the last few vehicles on this last island and head to the extraction point, and that's the end of the mission.